If you're just starting your illustration career in 2026, you're probably already feeling overwhelmed. No doubt you've heard that the industry is tough at the moment. You're probably worried about AI taking over, not to mention all the usual fears a new creative has. What if I'm not good enough? I don't know how to find clients or price my work, all of that. The industry has changed a lot over the last couple of years, but the fundamentals of building a creative career haven't. I spent the last 10 years in the industry and I've talked to hundreds of illustrators at all levels of their careers. I've seen what works, what doesn't, and what the common problems are. If I was starting again today as an illustrator, here's exactly what I'd do. Some things you can control and some things you can't. AI, the economy, and politics are out of your hands. Whatever happens there, you can't do anything about. What you can control is how much you practice, how often you put yourself out there and show your work, and whether or not you stick to the plan. Most wannabe illustrators give up way too soon. They don't see instant results, they lose motivation, and they just stop pushing. There's probably a Darwinian survival of the fittest element to that. If everybody in the world who wanted to be an artist was an artist, our society would be pretty dysfunctional, no offense. Some people give up because their priorities change, others give up out of necessity because they need to earn a more stable income, others simply don't try hard enough. Early in my career, I gave up because I realized I just didn't want it enough and I found something that I wanted more. Not everybody can make it in the creative industries, but I'd rather you gave it your 100% effort to actually find out if you can make it than half-ass it and always be left wondering what would have happened if you'd just tried a little bit harder. The effort you put in the first couple of years might not get you the results you want, but those efforts compound over time in the skills you build, the connections you make, and in the mindset and the resilience that you build up too. It takes time, but it will never be harder than it is in the first couple of years. If you can make it that far, it only gets easier. If you've got a big mountain of a task in front of you, like become a successful illustrator, there are a couple of things that you need to do. First, break that massive impossible task down into smaller, more easily defined chunks that you can prioritize, organize, and make steady progress with. Become a successful illustrator becomes learn the technical skills, painting, drawing, software, screen printing, whatever it is. There are thousands of YouTube videos, Skillshare classes, podcasts and books on learning those skills. Your competence in those technical skills will improve if you learn from others and practice what you learn regularly. Before we keep going, a quick thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you're trying to start your illustration career in 2026, the best thing you can do right now is to keep learning new skills and experimenting with ideas. Skillshare has thousands of courses on illustration, design, business, and creativity, from basic to advanced technical skills, to how to find your first client, to building a portfolio that actually gets you noticed. Recently, I've been enjoying this Final Cut Pro editing class by Jevon Dovey to try and finally level up my editing skills. There are classes from amazing illustrators like Tom Froese and Andy J. Pizza, and others like Daniel Scott for all your Adobe technical software tips. I've taken so many of his classes over the years, plus loads of practical business topics that I wish I'd known when I was starting out. And the good news is the first 500 people to use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen will get 1 month free, plus 20% off their first payment. So get started today. This is only valid through November. If you've been meaning to invest in yourself and take your illustration career seriously this year, go check it out. And a big thank you again to Skillshare for supporting the channel. Then you turn those raw technical skills into a style, your style. One of the ways people start to develop a style of their own is to copy other people's styles and see what you can learn from them. Then combine what you learn into something that is uniquely your own. That's a long process, and your style will always be evolving through your career. Then you build up a body of work in that style, which is your portfolio. If you can put together roughly 20 illustrations onto a simple website in a consistent style, you have everything you need to start making money from your illustrations. And finally, you show that work to the people who can pay you, clients. Emails to art directors, building a social media following, trying to get an agent. These are all things you can focus on once you've got those first 3 steps in place. Then you repeat the process until you find your first client, your 5th client, and your 50th client. Maybe you can do that in a year. Maybe it will take 5 years. But the steps are simple, not easy, but straightforward at least. Second, if you have any hope of sticking to this plan, you need a way to stay motivated, because you're not always going to feel like drawing or taking another class or emailing another potential client. A great technique I use is the don't break the chain method. Every day you do your task or you hit your goal, you put a big red X on your calendar, a small reward that compounds over time. When you've chained together 200 or more days in a row, you are really not going to want to break that chain. I've used this for exercise goals, social media posting, and I used it to write my book, The Illustrator's Guide, and all kinds of other challenges I've set for myself. You can use a habit tracker app, but I love the feeling of putting a big red cross on my calendar at the end of a day. I got this gigantic 3-year calendar from yearcalendar.shop. They're a Swedish company with lots of great designs, and the best thing about them for me is how big they are. Hard to ignore. So let's make this more realistic. What would those steps look like in practice? If you're starting from absolute zero with no creative skills, you might think, yeah, I'll be ready to go pro in 6 months. You probably won't, but you can make enormous progress if you set achievable milestones and stick to the plan. And if you're looking to start a career in illustration, I'm guessing you're not starting from absolute zero. You've probably got skills that you can build on rather than starting from scratch. If we're going to squeeze this plan into a year, we want to be ready to make money from illustration as soon as possible. Everyone's time commitments are different, and doing all this in a year would be challenging even if you were doing it full time. But let's imagine what it could look like, just as an example. Step 1, learn the technical skills. That's months 1 to 6, January to June. Your only job here is to be consistent. Get comfortable making bad art regularly. A lot of that work will be practice and exercises and experiments, nothing you want to show to anyone else. But it doesn't have to be amazing, it just has to exist. If you aim to create one finished piece a week, by the end of 6 months you'll have 20 to 25 finished pieces of work. The first ones will be bad, the last ones will be better, and you'll be getting more confident in your skills, the tools you use, and you'll be building up momentum and good creative habits. Step 2, develop your style. That's months 6 to 12. Now you start asking, what kind of work do I like making? Based on the skills and techniques you've learned, you figure out which ones you enjoy the most and which ones you're best at, and you double down on those and start making them your own. Experimenting with colors, themes, and combining techniques. You're still learning new things, but maybe the classes you take go from basic drawing or software tutorials to how to find your style and maybe color theory and more advanced topics. You can start sharing some of your work online or with friends to get some feedback. By the end of your first year, you could have a small but consistent body of work. And step 3, let's say the end of 2026, you put together your first online portfolio, and you can do that in a few days. Something cheap or free is perfect at this point. This is version 1 of your portfolio, and it's the first version of many, so don't throw too much money at it right now. Pick your best work, add it to your website, and you are ready to start showing it to clients. It won't be perfect, but it's there, it's real, it's something to be proud of. And step 4 is finding clients and showing them your work. You're probably not ready to work with the New York Times or Apple yet, but you can start small. Magazines, local businesses, community projects. Start practicing, contacting clients, and getting into the flow of showing your work regularly. As you get into the later steps, you're still working on the earlier steps. The learning and the practicing doesn't stop with version 1 of your portfolio. You keep improving until you finally get your first client. Your 20th finished illustration will be a lot better than your first. So you might find yourself going back to work on older pieces and either updating them or remaking them. Depending on where you're starting from and how much time you've got, getting to this stage in a year might be unrealistic, but if it's your priority, your number one goal, you can carve out time from other things. You'll probably have to say no to other things you enjoy so you can say yes to doing this as quickly as possible. Maybe 2 years is more realistic. If you've got a full-time or kids, maybe 5 years is achievable. Now that's pretty scary. That is a long time, but if you really want it, you'll see it through. I've been running this YouTube channel for 5 years now with very little reward, but I keep going because I know it's worth it. When you get your first client, you've proved that it was worth it. You're officially a working illustrator. The second project might not come along instantly, but the more you do, the easier it gets until you're doing 1 project a month, then 2, then you might be in a position where you can consider going full time. Throughout this process, sometimes you'll feel really motivated and sometimes you won't. That's totally normal, and you'll probably find you go through productive periods and not so productive periods. It's unrealistic to think that we can keep up the same level of energy consistently for extended periods of time. It's just, it doesn't work like that. But don't let a low period push you off track completely. Recognize it, accept it, take a break if you need to, then return to it when you're feeling recharged. And when you are feeling motivated, make the most of it. When there's no tangible result, like a paycheck, it's so hard to stay motivated. I know that because I've been building my new business, illustrators.com, for the last few months. It's a platform for professional illustrators to help them find clients and get more visibility online. There's a link in the description if you want to take a look. I started out strong, then I've had some days where I can't focus and when I'm second guessing myself. Some days I just can't seem to do anything productive. I've got a lot of work to do on it, and there's no reward for me in the form of a steady paycheck every month. I'm building this from the ground up, so there's no guaranteed income. I can't rely on the same things that used to keep me motivated, so I have to track my actions, not the outcomes. You can't control whether you can draw exactly what's in your head, but you can keep to your plan of drawing for 30 minutes every day for 6 months. You can't control how many people like your social media post, but you can control whether you stick to your posting schedule. You definitely can't control replies from clients, but you can control whether you send 5 emails a day. That's what my big calendar is for. Keeping me motivated, accountable, and even though it's not much of a reward, I know that if I cross that day off, I did what I needed to do. That's how you build momentum, one tiny win at a time. One thing that definitely doesn't help motivation is comparing yourself to other people. I know this all too well from YouTube. So many videos out there about how this person blew up their channel in 90 days or that person went viral with their first video. You'll see illustrators getting loads of followers online and cool clients and awards, and it feels like you're failing. Social media can be absolutely toxic for this. You'll see a snapshot of people's best moments, but it's not the full reality. Some of them are lucky. Some of them are better at illustration than you. Some of them have far more time to spend practicing than you do. And some of them have been working on it quietly and consistently for 10 years before they finally get their big break. You don't see the struggle, the rejections, the failures, and the self-doubt. They're all on their own path, which is very different from your path. Similar destinations, but 1,000 different ways to get there, all with different timelines. If you can avoid comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10, you'll save yourself a lot of mental energy that's better spent actually making work. When you catch yourself starting to feel discouraged, try shifting the focus from outcomes to progress. Don't ask, why aren't clients hiring me yet? Ask, what have I learned this month that I didn't know before? That's progress, and progress adds up slowly, invisibly at first, then all at once. The illustrators who make it aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who keep showing up and putting the work in, even when nobody's watching. So if you're starting your illustration career in 2026, here's my advice. Don't rush it. Don't beat yourself up if it takes longer than you'd like. Nobody builds their dream career overnight. Most people give up way too soon. Not because they're not talented enough, but because they just didn't stick around long enough to see the results of their effort pay off. You don't have to have it all figured out this year. You just need to keep showing up, one drawing, one email, one red cross on the calendar at a time. And if you want a bit more help of figuring out the business side of things, finding clients, pricing, marketing, that's exactly what my book, The Illustrator's Guide, is for. It's a practical, no-nonsense handbook for building your illustration career step by step. You can find a link in the description if you'd like to check it out. Keep going. You're building something that takes time and patience. If it were easy, everyone would do it. I hope you're one of the people who can stick with it for the long haul. Speaking of which, if you're one of the 20% of people who made it to the end of this video, drop me a comment and let me know you're in the 20% club. Check out this video next. It's a good follow-up to this one. See you next time.